This is Stephen here from Story Power. You're very welcome to this video. In today's video, I'm talking with my colleague and fellow director in Story Power. So if you want to introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your background and where you come to writing from.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stephen. My name is Trevor Colgan. As Stephen just said, we are partners in StoryPower.ie. I am a professional writer. I have worked in a number of different roles in the industry over the years. I have 25 years experience in the industry. I started out as a novelist. I then went on to create my own television show, and I have worked in the television industry and the film industry primarily for the last 20 years as a scriptwriter. I've also worked as a story writer, a story editor, a series consultant, a producer. I've pretty much done any of the creative jobs in the industry over that time. In regards to how I came to writing, I was always interested in writing when I was a child, when I was a teenager, and I studied journalism and radio broadcasting in college, which are both creative parts of the industry. And it was during those experiences that I met a couple of teachers who kind of identified and encouraged that I had talent as a storyteller and as a writer. And they very much encouraged me to pursue those goals. So that was kind of how I got my start, which was when I was in my late teens, when I started to take it more seriously, and that led to me writing and publishing my first novel, which was The Stratford Enders in 1999. So that's how far back my career goes. It actually goes back 26 years as a professional, and then obviously my formative years as a teenager, figuring out how to do the job.
Okay, so a long journey of trying out many different mediums, many different types of writing, many different writing steps, writing processes, and so on. So a journey of discovery and learning in all them different types of mediums or ways of writing and so on. I might move on to just ask you a question about what does story power mean to you and how does it influence your writing and your work towards helping people?
Yeah, well, I think even in regards to the name that we've chosen for the business, Story Power, um, we're not actually trying to be too clever with that. It does emphasize what I think are the most kind of essential qualities of the creative process, and in story making in particular, which is that it is actually it's a very powerful and kind of enriching experience, both for professional writers and for amateurs or people who have an interest in it, even if it's not their career. And and for me, the the true beauty of encouraging people in regards to creating stories is, it was actually a quote I read quite recently by probably the most renowned comic book writer of the last 50 years is Alan Moore. He's an English comic book writer who wrote things like Watchmen, V for Vendetta, um, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and did some great work on things like Batman and Superman. And he said about writing, when he was asked about it, writing is a form of magic. And I think that's a very beautiful way of looking at it. And it's something that I completely subscribe to, because one of the things that we discussed in terms of like what this business is about and what we're hoping to bring to the people that we work with is a kind of a magical thing, in that what we always start out with is a blank page or a blank whiteboard or a blank laptop screen, and through the exercises and the sessions that we look to do with our clients, with our participants, it is about encouraging them to use what we all have, imagination and creativity, to create things that didn't exist before we go through that process. And that is a kind of magic. And that's why I'm so excited about the potential of this business, because it's encouraging people to access their own power.
So is the blank page a double-sided coin, in that the blank page can be both a challenge for a writer when they're starting off and they're trying to fill that blank page or put something on the blank page, or to flip the script, is the blank page an opportunity or an opening for a person with a blank page to start their story, to start their journey, to start their process of creation in whatever medium they choose to express, if it's theater, if it's poem, if it's story, if it's story for screen, or whatever it is. So the blank page is the doorway, I guess.
Absolutely. And the thing, again, the lovely thing I love about the analogy of the blank page, it's the great equalizer, because every single story that has ever been written in whatever genre, in whatever medium, the ones that you just outlaid there, it always starts the same way. Any act of creation starts the same way, which is that nothing becomes something, you know. And I think what's exciting for me about one of our goals that me and you have discussed in regards to the kind of people that we want to reach out to, it's very much people who have never considered the idea of their own creativity being a powerful tool. And I think an aspect of that's also very important is that you shouldn't be afraid of the blank page. You shouldn't be afraid of the fact that you are going to go through a process, be it in one of our in-person sessions or online with us, that there's nothing. And that by working with us and accessing, I call it your superpower, your imagination and your creativity. Everyone has imagination and creativity, and it is your superpower. And to take away the fear for people who don't do that on a regular basis, that they can't do it. It's about creating an opportunity for them to see, oh, this is within me, and it's something that I can have incredible fun with and gain incredible confidence from doing. And I think that's a very achievable goal.
So like a form of personal development, as in different tools of ways of expressing and exploring a person's own identity and tapping into things within them that they're either aware of or developing an understanding through story. That's it. I mean, that's as much as I understand about creative writing, from the self to explore. It could be that story within you for either fiction or non-fiction, or it could be your story expressed within a wider team of people and exploring how you communicate and how the actual wider story and how your story fits in with wider stories. That's as much as I understand it. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. And you've hit on a very important point, Stephen, which is that if you daydream, you have creativity and story making ability. And I think it's a pretty safe assumption that everyone dreams or daydreams or doodles or considers, oh, what if I play for Man United or Liverpool, or
I'm glad you finished that. I'm glad you
yeah,
finished
yeah,
that.
yeah. I thought I'd be egalitarian in that analogy, and
Very détente, Trevor.
but I think again, what's exciting about that journey, as you describe it as a journey, I think that from what I've kind of observed just through my life and my experience, is that it's a little bit like, for a lot of people, the idea of making things up, be it a poem or a movie script or a novel, at a certain point in their life, usually around the time that they settle on a career, which might be 18 or 21, there is a kind of an assumption that to use your creativity in that way is sort of child's play. So it's something that you should sort of leave behind as you become a mature adult. Do you know what I mean? That's for children. And I mean, it's very much the opposite. Being able to practice that creativity and to access your imagination in that way. For me, the analogy that I think works best is it's no different than someone who goes to the gym to work out and train their body, to keep themselves fit and healthy. I think you could make the same, you could extol the same virtues for people exercising their creativity and their imagination and playing those games of story making. I think has a huge benefit potentially for people's mental health, mood, sense of confidence. So I think all of these things are what we are looking to demonstrate with the courses and the exercises and the materials that we're building as part of StoryPower.ie and the journey we're looking to invite people to go on in participating in the materials that we're preparing for the business.
Okay, well, there's a couple of things there that you touched on. From the career point of view, I suppose with me, I support people in terms of their career stories. So that really resonated with me. Um, so what I might do is I might do a brief share of the website, and you can maybe talk me through how people might connect with the website. And you talked about different ways that a person might be able to connect with and learn and develop through different resources like ebook, like courses, and like the workshops. You want to maybe tell me a bit more about that and how they
Yeah,
help?
yeah. So I mean, there's a number of different facets, I suppose, to the business model with StoryPower.ie in terms of the material and the options that we have for people. So just to break them down quickly, like what we're looking to do is to run in-person story sessions. And the idea there would be to invite a group of people to come to a room where we would have whiteboards and we would give them challenges, play story games with them, which would allow them to operate as part of teams in terms of starting again with the blank board, and we would provide them with prompts, which they would then work together as a team to build a story idea. The other thing that we're doing, of course, is we will have the option of people working with us one to one online with in terms of mentoring, and the idea there is that if someone has an interest in learning the kind of skills of story writing, then they connect with us and they can work one to one in the Zoom sessions. And again, we will be able to provide them with the mentoring and with the exercises and the processes of how they go about improving their ability to express their own story, to understand what it is they want to say, and a part of that as well. There's many layers to this, I suppose, but a key part of that as well will be that we will have in the store on StoryPower.ie, we will have a number of ebooks and courses, which again reinforce that idea of this is an opportunity for people to benefit from our experience and our expertise in regards to an introduction to storytelling is one of our first courses, and within that we would cover things like how you begin a story, understanding the structure of beginning, middle, and end, how you build an outline to help you kind of keep keep on track of what your story is going to be. So I think together under this kind of umbrella of the different the different facilities that we're creating, I think it will comprehensively allow people to connect with us and to work with us and learn from us in a variety of different ways, which is good because it gives people a choice in terms of tailoring their experience and their learning to what they're most comfortable with.
Well, I suppose there's a few things there, and like when we started off Story Power, it started like most things, the connection between two stories, two
Yeah,
worlds, a writer and a career advisor connected together and went, okay, this how could we help people develop their stories and understand that their stories connect with other stories and how they can explore them. And you talked about a couple of points that for me were always very key. Um, we started with Commodore, we drifted through PS1, we're gamers. So part
yeah.
of the a core element of story power for me and for the conversations that we had, people are welcome to put comments in the comments in relation to stories that they face challenge with, and also as well as that, what their experience is on their journey of stories. And the follow-on video to this, which will be me under the griller, which will be in relation to the career stories element of it. The end card of this video when it's up on YouTube, you can link to the video for exploring career stories. But the part that I'm going to come back to, alongside the different ways that people can connect, whether it is an ebook suits or whether it is a course that your preference, whether it is joining a workshop group or whether it is connecting with story mentoring one-to-one over Zoom or in-person workshops. These are all just different ways for me how people can connect with developing their story writing or developing their career story. Well, a point I want to focus in on is for me the gaming element, and this is where Commodore and PlayStation come in, was the gaming element of it is like exploring a topic, being engaging, being fun, and bringing games into it. So, from your perspective, Trevor, what way does that connect with how you engage people in mentoring one-to-one through the courses, the ebooks, and the workshops? How does that connect, the gaming element?
I think it's very important, Stephen, because when we first discussed the idea of this business, we realized that there was a lot of synergy between your career expertise as a guidance counselor and helping people on their journey in terms of what career they want to pursue, and my experience of story rooms and working with writers, and in terms of like how you develop. And I think there's a couple of things that I think are very important. I think almost as an ethos, encouraging people to explore and develop these skills, which are inherent, imagination and creativity. It can only benefit them in a number of different ways. And I think what's important about that is, yes, we can teach you the rudimentaries and also the more advanced concepts of writing a movie outline or understanding the difference between an inciting incident and a reversal. I mean, these are all kind of technical terms in the writing industry. But for me, what is a more core element is it's never a bad thing to encourage people to know themselves more. And I have seen it in action in terms of just being around other writers. The more experience they gain, the better they understand their craft, the better chance they have of being successful, because we refer to it as finding your own voice. And on a writing journey, finding your own voice is essential. because that will reflect in your work. And I think you would agree with me that's also a very important part of figuring out what career you want to pursue, what goals you want to set for yourself in terms of like what vocation you're interested in. So I think that's one part of it. But just to circle back to the main thrust of your question was about the gaming element. Again, when we started to discuss the idea of this business, as two people who have a lot of experience in terms of teaching and mentoring, the one thing that we really agreed on and kind of fired our imaginations was that our belief is the best way for people to learn is to make things fun and to also empower them quite early in the process that they are almost in control of their learning. And I think that's why the gaming element, and it's something that we've looked to incorporate into everything we've discussed in terms of the courses and the content online, and then the experience of the in-person sessions is about, if our goal comes to fruition for me, ideally people will not realize they're learning because we have made it so fun and seem like it's a game. It's purely a game. And I think that in my experience, that has always rendered the best results with the young writers I've worked with, or the young students I've worked with, when it's come to teaching them the skills of being a story writer. If you can excite their imagination through play, so game equals play, and in those contexts, it's a way to make learning a much more enjoyable and accessible experience. And I think that's at the core of our belief in the gaming element of the material that we have on offer.
Yeah, but I suppose there are, and we talked about this when we started, there are different how-to elements. There's a lot of how-to content out there, and it really leaves people in the same place and the same space of, I develop my understanding a little bit, but where do I bring this? And is it really at the core of what I'm trying to develop? I mean, you talked about the career elements of things. Um, Story underpins everything, not
Yeah.
just in Ireland, but story fundamentally underpins a large part of our lives. And the gaming element for me, and when we started discussing it as well, was a lot about finding a universal design for learning approach. So people tend to, and this is me popping on the career advisor's hat, as much as I am popping on having been a learner myself. People learn in very different ways. You can be shown how to do something and connect with it for a certain amount. You can hear about something, and as well as that, you can read about something, or you can break the eggs and make the omelette. And that's when our discussions initially were all about different ways and respecting the different ways and challenging people through engaging them in different ways so they can connect with the fundamentals of a story, their story. And there's something really important about that
Oh,
because
100%. And to just take that a little further, in my experience of working with writers, 25 years working with different writers on different projects, I've been in a lot of story rooms. And just to quickly kind of explain the dynamics of a story room, on a show like a long running soap opera, or a show that has like 10 or 15 episodes a season, you would normally have a writing room that will have between 6 and 10 writers, and their job is basically to work out everything that's going to happen in the show across a season. Um, and I think what really resonated with me and the experiences I've had, as a professional writer in those rooms is that one size does not fit all. It is a myriad of approaches, beliefs, understanding of craft, perception on what story is. And then when I spent time as an educator with young students who had yet to enter that industry professionally, I realized, well, you can apply that to any set of people, that everyone comes at learning, as you say, in their own authentic way, through their own prism. And that obviously involves different strengths and weaknesses. So and again, as you said, like, there are some people who are very good at learning in that kind of instructional manual kind of way. You read the how-to guide, and you get it. And then there are other people who, to learn, they have to do. There are people who learn better visually. There are people who learn better from an auditory point of view. And again, I think what we've really endeavored to do in terms of building the idea of this business, and the curriculum we're going to provide, and the exercises we're going to provide, is to make it fun, but to make it flexible enough that people who have different ways of learning and different ways of interpreting the material in the world, we can tailor it so that they can get as much out of it as the next person, despite the fact they might be completely different in terms of how they interact with the material or the exercises.
Well, it's that interaction that's absolutely key, because a lot of the times when people are learning from different sources, they're learning on their own and they've no sounding board. So you talked about the story room experience, and like, I don't have experience of a story room experience, but I have experience of um facilitated classroom and group environments where I'm supporting groups of people. There's almost like a magic. It's palpable in a room. Um, okay, it can go along a continuum of, magic to madness, somewhere in between there.
Yeah,
But there is an energy. There's a palpable energy when people engage with each other around a learning, a project, a start, a middle, an end, a challenge, difficulties, going astray, finding the way back to the path. So, if people want to pop in the comments different ideas they have around story, and indeed, particularly, I'd love to hear from you in relation to your experience of how you have learned and to develop story and your story learning journey as well. So pop them in the comments. Um, I think the interaction was the word that sat with me, because a lot of, like, writing seems to be a solitary
yeah,
occupation and job and process, and it isn't. So that's the story room experience, is the interaction between people and the bouncing of ideas. Is that key to developing those ideas further?
absolutely. So in regards to the solitary aspect of writing, I mean, every professional writer understands that, because whether you work in television or you write novels or you write poetry, um, ultimately, if you're creating something, you will more often than not do it solo. In the industry that we work in, a lot of the opportunities to earn a living are in television and film, and they're more of a collaborative space in terms of writing teams. So that's when you get the opportunity to interact. But I think another thing that's also important in regards to creating these opportunities for people to learn, to explore their creativity and their imaginations. And it's something that me and you hit upon as we were just developing our idea of a curriculum and our idea of the different exercises and spaces we could create to facilitate people going on this journey, is that it's important that they get to experience the value of failing, the value of not having a great idea, the value of working for 4 hours on the story that they're all trying to figure out, and it doesn't quite come out the way they intended or the way they wished. And I think what's really important about that is it goes back to what we discussed earlier, that at a certain point, a number of people feel that creating stories or that kind of make believe, pretend, making things up, play is juvenile. And I think that's quite sad. But I think there's also there's a real disadvantage to that, just in terms of living a healthy life as you become an adult. Because the great thing about failing in a space like we will create, make up a story for us, and you get it wrong or you don't have any ideas, there's a huge value to that as well. And that is the experience that every professional writer has gone through in making a career for themselves. Stephen King once famously told a story of when he started off, he had a nail that he hammered into the wall above his writing desk, and he used to hang the rejection letters on it when he started out. And as he famously said, I had to replace that nail 3 times with much longer nails, you know. But within that process, quote unquote, failing, you become stronger.
Yeah, you
And
feel better.
you
Like
learn so much about yourself, I think, through making mistakes. And again, I think that's a really key ambition for us, Stephen, in the courses and the exercises and the opportunities that we're going to create for people, is that they feel that it's safe and they can go through that experience without it knocking them, because it's actually a great learning tool.
Well, that's that space to try things out, like to run with ideas. Like one of the world, society, media, the milieu, the context in which we live, sometimes said, okay, here's the lines, paint within the lines and paint by number. Ideas wise, concept wise, all that kind of stuff. Like, essentially, really try out different ideas like that. That freedom in thinking, you know, we learn ways of doing things and processes and steps. And sometimes we get very corralled in our thinking of like, this is how we do it, and here's a set process. It's the production rather than the creation.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're really they're really two hands to come together, and I'm only becoming aware of how much I talk with my hands. But sorry, viewers. But basically, it is the production process of making something happen along with the creation process, that lightning in a bottle, the idea that just will not leave you alone till you write it down, till you express it, till you explore it. It keeps knocking at the door at you saying, here's an idea. The production element, of course, those things come together. But when production is more about making something than it is creating something, is there a part there that's being, where are we losing the capacity to try things out in the middle?
I think so, because, like, again, just as a concept or a consideration for us, the idea of uh, making fear or embarrassment about making mistakes, if we can almost lance the boil of that in terms of like people's relationship with it psychologically through doing the work that we will provide for them, I think there's a huge benefit to that. Because again, you know, just to relate my experience, the healthiest minds that have been around in terms of fellow writers, fellow creatives, because you meet directors and producers and all sorts of different people in the television industry, costume designers, musicians, so on and so forth. In my experience, the people who thrive and flourish the best are people who have been able to retain an open mind. So again, just as a kind of core concept or in bringing this business together, is that that is something that you can keep healthy and you can strengthen through the exercises that we are facilitating for people. So it is, again, if you think of it in these terms, it's like if you do an in-person session with us, the story room experience, and you know you're there for 3 hours, you're in a team, and it doesn't quite come together. I would argue that that's not really relevant in terms of the benefits that you gained out of that experience, because as you say, to put yourself in the space where you can try, where you can take a chance, where you can be bold or ambitious. Whether you succeed or not is not really the most relevant point. It's the fact that you opened yourself up to that possibility. You took off the guardrails or the training wheels, whatever analogy I think works best. But
Training
it
for
but
match
but
day, basically, like, you
it's a
know.
very healthy space to put yourself in. I guess people refer to it as taking themselves out of their comfort zone, but it is a very healthy exercise to put yourself through. And as we understand with physical health, it's the repetition of exercise that gains the results. And I think that's very, very much the same in terms of keeping your imagination and your creativity sharp. Strengthening
Absolutely.
it comes through practice.
Absolutely. Steve is consciously trying not to talk with his hands, but mainly on his head. So, again, viewers, pop in the comments, like, when you spot me talking with my hands. I suppose really from a person could be sitting out there in a company or in a job, and there isn't the expressive element that a person wants to or wanted to or always thought that they could do or would like to do, and so on. People will be at very different points and places in their life and will have different things to express. That knock on the door of that idea that sits with you and just knocks and knocks and keeps there, something that sits with you, that story that can explore with you and can develop out of you, that will sit with you. So for me, I think one of the biggest challenges with people in work today, apart from stuff they have unexpressed, are the masks that they're wearing in the stories that they're in. So if you want to call the story the company or the team or the department or the industry or the sector or whatever it is, um, sometimes people land in companies or sectors or stories or jobs and they don't feel ready for it. So they land in and they face imposter syndrome and there's large amounts of stress and challenge with maintaining that mask, maintaining the character, if you will, within the work story that they're in, and so on. So, to the personal development side of things, it can be exploring what stories you're sitting in and living in at that particular time. It doesn't have to be as deep as that. It could just be that knock at the door of the idea and you want to write something for fun, for expression, for enjoyment. And I'm aware that I started talking with my hands. So over to you, Trev. Again, it's a gift.
Feel it, play it. That's absolutely fine. No, but I think that's also, I think you've hit on something that's very, very important. It's very important to me personally in terms of the efficacy of what we're looking to do with the business and the experiences we're looking to create and facilitate for people to have, is that I personally believe that if you can't manage your fear of failing, your fear of being seen to be mistaken or out of touch, that's a detriment to you on many different levels. On a personal level, I think professionally, I think it kind of seeps in as a poison if you're living in that kind of state of kind of tension and that kind of paranoia or fear of like, oh, I don't want people to think that I'm stupid or I'm silly or whatever it might be. And I think that why that really tallies with the ethos, the mission, the ambition of Story Power is that I have seen in my career, in my 25 years of experience in the industry, that if you put people in a situation where you encourage them to give their take, their opinion, their point of view on a story, on a character, whatever you might be developing, it only steals and strengthens them. I said earlier, and it's something that is it's a phrase used in our industry, particularly in the show business industry and in the writing industry. Finding your own voice is very important, but I would argue that there's an equal importance in finding your own voice, being comfortable with who you are in all walks of life, and that is a journey that involves creativity, it involves imagination, it involves storytelling, it involves story making, because it that is part of our goal in terms of like the exercises, is that you get to examine what you believe, what you feel, how you would like to do a thing, and that's only a healthy journey to go on, because it's turning yourself into the light as opposed to into the darkness, as another analogy, because there's risk involved in that. Do you know what I mean? There's a certain amount of jeopardy and danger in expressing your idea, especially in a group setting. And I think that, again, that's very important in terms of our ethos and our mission at StoryPower.ie, because there are many books, there are many courses that will teach people story writing and screenwriting and all of these different aspects. But in my opinion, a lot of the focus in those courses and those books is towards the actual destination, which is you sell a movie for £10 million, or you get your show made on Netflix, and that's all fine and good. I'm not knocking that as a medium or as an instrument and a goal. You buy this book, you read it, you'll master this, and then you can end up being, in Hollywood, because you're selling blockbuster movie scripts. But I think what's equally as valuable is that these exercises are available to everyone. Everyone has imagination. Everyone has creativity, as we've spoken about. And I think everyone can benefit from approaching the exercising of those mental muscles in the same way they would going to the gym or running or walking, as in the same benefits that they get physically
Or
from
talking with their hands.
physical exercise. And you have me doing it too.
I know, man. How's everyone out there? Pop in the comments if you've caught the talking with your hands bug. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Hashtag talking with your hands. So, as we've touched on loads of different great points, Trevor, in terms of the creation element as much as the building skills for the production element. We've talked about the different ways that people can connect with Story Power, the website storypower.ie, and the social media to connect with us and pop us a message and so on. So as we just come to the end, um, if there are any other videos that people would like to see or have suggestions that they would like us to do in relation to the weird and wonderful world of story writing, creative writing for personal expression, or indeed the next video that we're going to do on this YouTube channel, which is exploring your career story. If there are other story-based videos that you would like us to do and to challenge us to do, pop it in the comments, connect with us, subscribe to the channel, and let us know. Help us build this community, this project of Story Power, because really And I leave the final word to you, Trevor. For me, we're on a journey. Myself, Trevor, and everybody at Story Power, we're on a journey to basically explore. So we're living our story, we're expressing our story. And along the way with our journey, we're asking people to say, well, how do you want to learn? How do you want to grow your story? How do you want to develop your story? And how do you want to connect with us? If you've got a question, if you've got an idea, if you have something that you want to say and connect with us on, there are many different ways that you can do that. In the description of this video, I'll put our link tree of how you can connect to us on Facebook, Instagram, and to connect with us, the contact details in relation to how you can let us know. But in the comments of this video, pop a like and subscribe and let us know what you think. Let us know what your view on story is and where you would like to contribute to this project as we grow it forward. So I leave the last word to you, Trevor. So how would you sum up your journey so far in Story Power and where you would like to take it next?
Well, again, I think it's important to reflect on what inspired me and you to take the steps to create this business. I think we do share the philosophy that to provide an opportunity for people to learn and for people to grow from an educational point of view is something that we're both really passionate about. And I think that on top of that, I think we've worked very hard in creating the exercises and the learning opportunities and the courses that we have that we're developing and have developed for StoryPower.ie on a very simple but solid basis and belief, which is it will be fun, it will be enjoyable, and you will benefit from it without feeling like, it's an oppressive thing in terms of like, oh, I have to do this thing. And that for me is the central message that I think I'm looking to get over to the people that we will eventually work with in the business, the people who will participate, is that we're not claiming that we're going to teach you how to write a movie that will sell for $10 million. We're not claiming that we are some kind of alchemists who can give you secrets that only we possess and that you need to pay us to access. What we would promise, or what I would suggest that we can promise, is that this experience will be a fun and rewarding experience in the sense that it will empower you to explore skills, abilities that you have inherent in you. And I don't think that can be a bad thing. So that's very much our mission and what excites us in terms of where this business is going to go.
And just to clarify, if anyone does write a 10 million box office bestseller or, bestseller, whatever it is, like, we're open to having discussions and obviously talking with hands will be part of it. We're open to having discussions with people about a percentage of it, like, so don't forget the brothers that got you there, you know what I mean? So basically, like, thanks very much, Trevor. It was good to have a chat through, and we're at the beginning and development elements of our story, and we look forward to connecting with you in future to bring this story forward. So thanks very much for your attention. Like and subscribe on the video, and love to hear from you in the comments. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Stephen. Bye bye.
Cheers. Remember to connect right now. That's right with WRITE, okay? Not an order, okay? Talk it with your hands. Bye bye.